Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Azatul Akmal binti Shamsuddin, and I will be presenting about the difference between conventional product and Islamic product. So the topic that we choose is on tawarruq for deposit account, and we choose one product for conventional banking, and which is CIMB Bank, and another one from Bank Islam or known as BIMB Bank. Okay, first from the PDS of CIMB Bank, I found that there are three types of deposit account, which is unfixed deposit, foreign currency deposit, and golden time deposit. And then while for the PDS of Bank Islam, the deposit account, I only find one type of fixed deposit account, which is term deposit tawarruq. And here I will show you the difference between CIMB Bank conventional fixed deposit and the Bank Islam Islamic fixed deposit. Okay, first for the description, the CIMB Bank is based on the loan and interest based return, while the Bank Islam based on the tawarruq contract, which have two sale and purchase contract. And then next for the deposit, CIMB Bank deposit being made mostly will be invest into non-Sharia compliant stock, while the deposit in Bank Islam will always be invest in Sharia compliant stock. This is because it's a requirement for Islamic banking and financial services to provide Islamic principle in their business, and deposit cannot be invest into the business that prohibited in Islamic law. Next, for the return on the CIMB Bank is based on the predetermined rate of return, which means the return are fixed, while the return on the Bank Islam is shared between the bank and depositor according to the agreed ratio. And the return is not fixed because it's based on the current market ratio. Excuse me. Guarantee part, in CIMB Bank, they will guarantee all kind of deposit account from their customer, while for the Bank Islam, they can only guarantee depositor from the deposit account only. So the depositor will get the guaranteed repayment of their fund. For the fee and charge, CIMB Bank, the amount that being charged is for account statement up to 1 year for 10 ringgit, and then 2 ringgit per page. Okay, and then for the statement account that more than 1 year is 30 ringgit and 2 ringgit per page. Okay, then for the withdrawal by check is 15 cent. Why in the Bank Islam, the amount that being charged is only on loss and destroy item on the investment certificate for the stamp duty with 10 ringgit, and there is no charge on any account statement and the withdrawal part. Okay, lastly on the profit rate on the CIMB Bank is for the unfixed deposit, the profit rate is 1.75 per annum until 2.35 per annum. Next, for the foreign currency fixed deposit, they are differ profit rate depends on the currency, which is that if you deposit on the USD currency or Japanese currency, they will follow the currency for the profit rate. And then for the golden time deposit, the profit rate is 2.10 per annum and 2.35 per annum. While the profit rate for Bank Islam, the fixed rate will be determined during the deposit placement, or usually the profit rate is on 1.70 per annum. Okay, that's all my part. Thank you.
For the next part, I will explain about several issues of tawarruq in BIMB. The first issue is related to the commodities. There are cases in the market today, especially those involving planned tawarruq transactions, where the assets or commodities sold are damaged commodities that cannot be exploited. For example, Sheikh Al-Muhyiddin Al-Qardaqi stated that there are tawarruq transactions that have been made in the international commodity market, that they have used a defective and non-beneficial underlying commodity, such as aluminium or scrap metal from Russia that has been stored in a store for 10 years. In fact, the commodity is used as the underlying asset of the tawarruq transaction, as it can no longer be sold in the market as it has no benefit or market value. How is it possible that an item that has no benefit or has lost its benefits can be used as the underlying asset in a sale and purchase transaction? This is important because in Islam, the goal of buying and selling is to obtain an asset or subject that can be leveraged. Then, the second issue is related to the lack of submissions and holdings. Among the basic things to be emphasized in a sale and purchase transaction is to ensure that the goods or assets to be sold are owned by the seller at the time of the contract, that is, before selling them to the buyer. This is important because the purpose of the sale and purchase contract is to transfer ownership of an item from the seller to the buyer, as well as the payment from the buyer to the seller. Failure to ensure that it is executed properly in accordance with the tawarruq will cause the sale and purchase contract to be invalid. The majority of jurists stated that the goods sold must be handed over the buyer and accepted in the hands of the buyer, or at least the seller allows the buyer to obtain the goods sold without any restriction. The last issue that I will disclose is issues related to delegates. The bank or its representatives should not sell commodities on behalf of the client if the client buys the commodity from the bank at an early stage. Instead, the customers have to sell the commodity on their own or through their own representative. What the bank can do is provide the information that the customer needs to sell the commodity. According to Sheikh Subaili, the appointment of a seller, that is bank, as a representative to sell to a third party is prohibited. He stated that there are two categories of tawarruq, which are tawarruq jaiz, which is permissible, and tawarruq muharram, which is prohibited tawarruq. The obligatory tawarruq is a transaction made when a customer buys a commodity on a deferred payment basis and then resells the commodity after obtaining a holding in cash to a third party.
Based on the analysis conducted, it can be concluded that most of the Sharia issues raised by Islamic scholars can be addressed through the use of the Bursa Su'asila, which is BSAS platform. Based on current developments and legal demands, it appears that many Islamic financial institutions are currently trying to offer deposit products based on tawarruq contracts. This development is in fact having an impact on the execution of the tawarruq transaction itself, when all is focused on the use of the BSAS platform. The impact is how the bank can meet the needs of its customers by ensuring that the commodities offered are sufficient according to current demand. This is because once the deposit product has started using tawarruq contracts, then a large value of number transaction will occur. Then BSAS needs to be prepared for that. Therefore, the bank needs to be prepared with platform alternative as a precautions. Next, the public is already aware that the current practice of BSAS allows its customers to take hold of the commodity physically. However, there has never been a case of a claim for surrender or physical holding made by the bank. Therefore, planning to do the delivery and physical holding needs to be made by the bank. Although it looks awkward and is not practical at the moment as there are additional costs to be borne. However, it is very important for the actual simulation to be done so that the transaction really complies with the requirements of Islamic law especially in ensuring that the commodity really exists. Lastly, from the issues used as the basis of the analysis, the issues related to representation were found not to be met by bank properly. This is due to the customers not having access to the system provided, causing sales to third parties cannot be made. The system can only be accessed by platform participants, namely financial institutions, for the purpose of buying and selling commodities. So in the transaction, the customer can only sell the commodity to BSAS by appointing the bank as a representative. This practice does not seem to meet the requirements set by contemporary scholars at this time, but this representation is nothing but intended to facilitate the affairs of the client. It is inconceivable what would happen if a customer was required to directly sell the commodity he had purchased to a third party if he wanted cash. Of course, they will face difficulties. In fact, it can even lead to considerable risks to the customer. So, keeping customers from being exposed to risks is even more important in this regard. Nevertheless, it is not wrong to suggest that the bank try to find one of the platform alternatives that can meet the needs of the representation, if any. In this case, there is a commodity transaction platform provider company, namely Sedania Assalam Capital Sedan Berhad, who can provide the service. The company make talk time credit as the underlying assets for tawarruq transaction performed. However, it is suggested that a study should be done to obtain complete information on the modus operandi of the company.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My name is Abdullah Muhammad and my metric number is 260537. For the discussion, the form of tawarruq is referred to as the purchase of products controlled and owned by the seller for late payment. It's where the buyers resell the goods or cash to another person other than the original seller. But in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 275, Allah clearly permits the trade while prohibiting the riba. However, tawarruq is a better model in personal financing, since it's claimed that tawarruq has no elements of riba because of the profit margin agreed by the parties, and there is no hidden payment charged by the seller to the purchaser. For the conclusion, we can see from the previous slides the difference between the two banks since BIMB uses Sharia compliant for tawarruq, while CIMB uses non-Sharia compliant. In terms of profit rate, deposit, return, and fees charges between the two banks. As a Muslim, we have to follow our Sharia principles, which encourage us to use any term of account in the banks if there is no elements like riba, qard, and maisir. That's all from me. Thank you so much.